Now to an incredible find overseas, an elaborate series of stone monuments believed to have been hidden for thousands of years, not far from the famous site of Stonehenge. And it suggests that mysteries that shroud this region are bigger than many of us even thought.
Beneath Stonehenge, ground-penetrating radar just revealed 20 massive shafts carved into solid rock, forming a perfect mile-wide circle that modern surveyors would struggle to replicate with GPS. They were dug 5,000 years ago, before metal, before writing, before the wheel. The stones you see in every photograph were never the monument. They're the tiny, visible fraction of something designed to manipulate anyone who stepped inside it. What the radar found for 300 years, archaeologists studied Stonehenge the only way they could, from the surface. They measured the standing stones, catalogued the fallen ones, debated how ancient people dragged them into position, and they assumed that was the whole story. What you see is what there is. The Stonehenge Hidden Landscapes project shattered that assumption. Professor Vincent Gaffney and his team deployed ground-penetrating radar across miles of protected English countryside that had never been excavated. The technology fires electromagnetic pulses deep into the earth and reads what bounces back, building detailed images of everything hidden below. No digging, no damage, just data returning from depths that had kept their secrets sealed for 5 millennia. The early results were unsurprising. Old post holes, forgotten burial pits, standard archaeology confirming what everyone already believed. Then they ran one final survey. 3 feet beneath the chalk bedrock, the radar revealed those 20 massive shafts, each one over 30 feet wide and 15 feet deep, carved directly into solid rock using tools that supposedly didn't exist 5,000 years ago. When researchers plotted the positions on a coordinate grid, the pattern was undeniable. A perfect circle spanning more than a mile, centered precisely on Durrington Walls, a site 2 miles from Stonehenge. Positioning errors measured in inches across a structure spanning thousands of feet. Dr. Richard Bates from the University of St. Andrews ran the calculations repeatedly, looking for the mistake that would explain this away. There wasn't one. "This is unprecedented," he told the team. "Hunter-gatherers did not do this. Early agricultural communities did not do this. Someone with knowledge we don't understand did this." And the shafts were just the beginning. As the survey expanded, the radar revealed at least 17 previously unknown structures surrounding Stonehenge. Massive timber posts that once stood in concentric circles, some as large as the standing stones themselves. Ancient pits arranged in deliberate geometric patterns mirroring celestial configurations. Processional pathways carved into the earth, funneling movement toward the central monument like a vast ceremonial highway. The visible stones weren't the monument at all. They were the center of something immeasurably larger. And that's where this story goes completely sideways. Because what the radar found directly beneath the stones themselves changes what Stonehenge actually was. The sound machine for decades, visitors inside the circle reported something strange, a low vibration in their chests, an unusual energy they couldn't name, a feeling that something was fundamentally different within those stones. Most researchers dismissed it. Imagination, wishful thinking, tourists wanting to feel something mystical. Then acoustical engineer Trevor Cox at the University of Salford decided to actually test it. His team built a precise 1:12 scale model using 3D-printed stones positioned with millimeter accuracy inside a specially designed acoustic chamber that eliminated all external noise. A perfect laboratory for measuring how sound behaved inside the ancient structure. The results made him stop the experiment, recalibrate every instrument, and run it again. Same results. Inside the stone circle, reverberation time measured just over half a second. Voices became fuller, richer, transformed into something carrying weight and authority. Musical instruments resonated with amplified depth, wrapping around listeners from every direction. But step outside the ring and the effect vanished instantly, like crossing an invisible wall between two different worlds. Think about what that means. Neolithic homes absorbed sound. Open landscapes dispersed it. Forests swallowed it. But within Stonehenge, even ordinary speech became commanding. And despite those massive stone surfaces, there was almost no echo. The inner stones disrupted reflections from the outer ring so precisely that sharp echoes were eliminated entirely. That doesn't happen by accident. That requires engineering. That requires intent. Researcher Rupert Till discovered that some of the Welsh bluestones produce clear, ringing tones when struck, almost like massive stone bells. The region they came from is traditionally called Maen Clochog, which translates to ringing stones. Local folklore preserved knowledge of their acoustic properties for thousands of years. But Till's modeling revealed something genuinely unsettling. The specific stone arrangement generates infrasound, deep vibrations below the threshold of conscious hearing. You cannot hear infrasound, but you absolutely feel it. Scientific research links exposure to powerful sensations of awe, unease, disorientation, and primal fear. The builders hadn't just created a monument. They'd engineered a machine capable of manipulating human emotion, and nobody standing inside it would have any idea it was happening to them. If this is already changing how you think about the ancient world, hit subscribe now. The impossible journey. The acoustic discoveries forced researchers to completely rethink every assumption about Stonehenge. If the builders understood sound manipulation at this level, what else had been drastically underestimated? The answer arrived in late 2024. A research team led by Anthony Clark at Curtin University had been analyzing the altar stone, the large ceremonial slab at Stonehenge's heart, using high-precision mass spectrometry to examine individual mineral grains. Clark ran the analysis, then ran it again, then brought in independent verification from a separate laboratory. The numbers came back identical every single time. Some minerals dated between 1 and 2 billion years old. Others clustered around 450 million years. This combination created a chemical fingerprint, matching only one geological formation on Earth. But here's the catch. It wasn't Wales. It wasn't anywhere close to Stonehenge. It was the Orcadian Basin, northeastern Scotland, over 700 miles away. Dr. Robert Ixer of University College London had spent decades studying Stonehenge geology and thought he understood where every major stone came from. When he saw the data, his response was immediate. Genuinely shocking. This changes everything we thought we understood about these people. Moving a 6-ton sandstone block overland through ancient Britain was virtually impossible. Dense primeval forests, treacherous marshlands, rivers without bridges. The evidence pointed to only one explanation. Neolithic engineers loaded the stone onto specially constructed vessels and guided it along hundreds of kilometers of dangerous coastline using knowledge of tides, currents, and celestial navigation far more advanced than anyone had imagined. 5,000 years ago, no metal tools, no written language, no maps, and this wasn't an isolated case. Bluestones transported from the Preseli Hills in Wales. Sarsen stones dragged from the Marlborough Downs. Sandstone shipped from Scotland. Each material selected for specific acoustic, magnetic, or geological properties. Each moved across impossible distances, requiring coordination spanning generations. Researcher Richard Bevins summarized it plainly. We're looking at a society with complex long-distance trade networks, advanced maritime capabilities, and organizational sophistication rivaling anything in the ancient Mediterranean world. And they achieved this 1,000 years before the Egyptian pyramids reached their peak. But knowing where the stones came from only deepened the real mystery. The question wasn't how they moved them. The question was why they needed these exact stones from these exact locations. The answer was written in the stars. Literally. The celestial code. Everyone knew Stonehenge aligned with the summer solstice. Every June, thousands of visitors watched the sunrise pierce directly through the central axis. Tour guides have explained it for generations. That alignment was just the surface layer, possibly even designed to distract from what lay beneath. When researchers combined the radar data with astronomical modeling, hidden alignments emerged from the noise. The buried pathways, timber post positions, and the massive shaft ring all demonstrated precise celestial orientations, extending far beyond solar observation. Some features tracked major lunar standstills, rare events on an 18.6-year cycle when the moon reaches its most extreme positions on the horizon. Think carefully about what that requires. Systematically tracking patterns that take nearly 2 decades to complete one cycle. That demands institutional memory. Precise records passed generation to generation. Observation spanning multiple human lifetimes. Organized education and long-term planning we never credited the Neolithic world with possessing. When researchers reconstructed star maps from 5,000 years ago, accounting for the slow wobble of Earth's axis that shifts stellar positions across millennia, apparently random stone alignments suddenly made perfect sense. The builders had encoded a precise map of the heavens as they appeared 5,000 years ago. A celestial snapshot frozen in stone. Dr. Amanda Chadburn put it bluntly. We kept assuming they were primitive. We kept assuming they were making rough guesses. They weren't guessing at all. They were tracking celestial mechanics with precision we didn't believe was possible without written records and metal instruments. The monument wasn't an agricultural calendar. It was a sophisticated astronomical instrument encoding observations that required generations to compile. But astronomical knowledge alone doesn't explain the acoustics, the impossible stone transport, or the buried shaft ring. Someone had to coordinate all of this across centuries of continuous construction. And that question leads somewhere nobody wanted to go. The shadow rulers. The Romantic interpretation imagined Stonehenge as a symbol of unity, scattered tribes coming together to build a shared sacred monument, a heartwarming story of cooperation and communal purpose. The radar destroyed that narrative completely. The scale was too vast, the precision too exacting, the specialized knowledge too carefully controlled. Completing the monument and its surrounding landscape required thousands of workers laboring across not years, but centuries. And the radar revealed no large permanent settlements near the site. Workers came from elsewhere. They labored under demanding conditions, following plans they didn't design, built to specifications they couldn't understand, then left when their service was complete. This wasn't voluntary cooperation. This was commanded labor on an industrial scale. The mathematics pointed directly to a centralized authority, an elite class possessing specialized knowledge, jealously guarding it, and commanding absolute obedience across multiple lifetimes. But here's the catch. Under that framework, the stones from distant regions take on an entirely different meaning. The ringing blue stones from Wales, the ancient altar stone from Scotland, These weren't symbolic gifts, representing unity. They were tribute, extracted from subordinate populations across hundreds of miles, not cooperation, control. Now reconsider the acoustics, a structure generating infrasound that triggers awe and fear below conscious awareness. Voices amplified to sound divinely powerful. Celestial alignments demonstrating privileged connection to cosmic forces ordinary people couldn't comprehend. Inside that circle, surrounded by those engineered frequencies, the rulers who controlled Stonehenge wouldn't merely claim to speak for the gods. They would seem like gods themselves, a precision instrument of psychological control, and no one standing inside it would ever know what was being done to them. That's not speculation. That's documented physics. The revelation Professor Gaffney returned to his research station months after the discovery. The data was verified. The papers were published. But looking at those radar images, he didn't feel triumph. He felt unease. "We spent centuries assuming they were primitive," he said. "We were wrong. They knew things we're only beginning to rediscover, and they built something designed to last until we developed the technology to finally understand it. The stones waited 5,000 years for us to catch up." Ground-penetrating radar finally revealed what they were hiding. Acoustic engineering, celestial encoding, a buried complex dwarfing the visible monument, and evidence of a ruling class powerful enough to command an entire island. So here's the real question. If the builders encoded a message into stone, sound, and starlight, a message meant for a civilization with technology they couldn't imagine, what exactly were they trying to tell us? Drop your theory in the comments below. And if you want more secrets dug up from history, smash that like button and subscribe. We're pulling back the curtain on the ancient world every week, and trust me, you do not want to miss what comes next.